noticed that went out there on purpose to make sure,
Right.
If she went out there by herself, she probably was going to leave. But if the
Right.
staff is out there with her, then she can't really, leave. So, that was a very mature move. Go ahead.
The girl, her name is Emma. The character name is Emma. The girl that needed the help. They wrote in there that she said she needed some air. So when she went out the door, she still wanted to leave, but she was just like, I just need some air. And that's real talk. Because if she's on drugs and she needs to be detoxed, because that's my area, drugs and alcohol abuse. And so, and I'm not saying I was an addict. I'm saying that I worked in that field with people that had addiction issues. And so I'm saying that she, it's like when they're going through that, they want the drugs so bad, it's like their bodies start tripping. So she probably started hyperventilating and all kind of stuff, and then her mind was playing tricks on her because, her mind already in relapse mode. It ain't even relapse because she hadn't even started cleaning up. She had just made the first step. She ain't even spent an hour there. You know what I mean?
Right,
so she
right. She ain't even talked to Mary yet. We still ain't got in the room with Mary yet.
Ain't got in the room with Mary. Exactly. And so just that whole process, it was just a trip because, I just want to go back to the kids. When you think about a domestic violence relationship and there's children involved, no telling what happened to them kids. I don't know if it's something happened and we're gonna discover it in the story later because I can't remember and I don't even want to skip ahead. But I'm saying that, in those type of situations, we don't know if them kids was abused physically, sexually. We already know they was abused mentally and emotionally. We already know that by how they were acting at the assessment. But and then we don't know if the father abused the mother right there in front of them, if he used them to help abuse them. You don't know because there are all kind of cases like that. And, I guess we should make a notice right now that if anybody is going through anything like that, you don't have to stay in that. You don't have to stay in that. A lot of people stay in those type of relationships because of financial loss, companionship, or fear. Don't want nobody to know. They want the marriage or a relationship to stay together. They don't want to break the family up. And then they even say they stay together because of their children. And I'm telling you, anybody is staying in a domestic violence relationship because of their kids, they are being so fooled. They are being so fooled. Their mind is like they're being fooled because you're actually hurting the child if you stay in that type of situation. And if you don't believe me, look up stories. Don't nobody have to know. YouTube, social media, all kind of different outlets. Google. You can Google articles.
The television show.
They have all kind of storylines. They even have children that have grown up and been in situations, and now they're grown, and you can see how they turned out. You can hear from their mouth. They say you hear from the horse's mouth. You can hear from the children's mouth what they went through because their parents stayed together. How it affected them to be in a healthy relationship, that they don't know how to be in a healthy relationship. They have trust issues, or they're attracted to unhealthy relationships, just all kind of stuff. Go ahead, DJ Deacon.
I just wanted to add, so we can get into chapter 2. I just wanted to add what Vicki was saying about, when you see domestic violence or you hear domestic violence, and not all the time do you have to see it or hear it. You could be in a situation where you didn't even experience that, and you grow up and you become the abuser. So that's one side of it. And then there's the other side of it where you did see it, you did hear it, and then you grew up being the abuser. That's two examples. And then the third example, I'm experienced this myself, you don't have to grow up being a victim or an abuser because you experienced domestic violence. There is people that went through some stuff, but they didn't grow up being an abuser or a victim, and and there are examples of cases where that is true. So don't let nobody tell you, oh, so you're going to grow up being an abuser or a victim. No, it's a possibility that you will, but there's also a possibility that you won't. Because sometimes when you go through that, you mentally, how can I put this for you? You mentally have it in your mind that I'm not going to go through that. Well, I'm going to make sure that my children don't go through that. So I just wanted to add that. So it's the 3 different scenarios where you can grow up and be an abuser or a victim, or, dang, I missed my count now. What did I say?
Well, I'm sure they heard you, because I'm not going to go back and repeat it because I can't.
Okay, I got you.
What I'm going to say
so
is that
Chapter 2.
Domestic violence is a vicious cycle. Those that have studied it, they know it from the sound of my voice, and there's some that don't know. But it's a vicious cycle. Usually a person is abused, and then it show up in a different way in their life as they get older. You could be sexually abused. You could be physically abused. It doesn't matter. It can interchange. You can start off with physical and end up going to something else, and end up going to something else and show up in something else if you don't get the right care, if you don't get the right, be stirred in the right direction, if you don't get counseling or someone that support system that's giving you, the right guidance. If you don't get the right guidance and care, there it can turn into a vicious cycle. So I'm saying that everybody that is abused does not turn into abuser, even though there are some that do. But most people that are abused suffer it more than once. Like they go from one abuse to the next abuse to the next as far as being the victim. However, there are some people that nip it in the bud and they don't experience that anymore, but they may deal with internal stuff. So most people that have been abused in whatever way, form, or fashion, most people need some kind of care taken in that area. Like you need some kind of something. Everybody has a different need, but they need something. Like whether, you got to go back and fix that thing because it affected your developmentally delayed in your growth where it kind of stunted you somewhere, where you have little issues or whatever. But this is not the bulk of our show, but for whatever reason we had to go there. But yeah, and then there are some people that become an abuser in a different way. Like maybe they might have been sexually abused, but they end up being they end up abusing somebody physically, or they may not even intended on doing that, but circumstances happen and they end up, becoming an abuser. But whatever the case may be, it's a vicious cycle, and everyone who experiences abuse, they need to take some kind of care. Like it shouldn't be just left alone. Like it should be, some kind of self-education, self-care done, however, through therapy, classes, reading books, journaling, like something. You can't just let it fester.
And then we just want to give out the resource.
Okay.
We got 7 minutes.
The resource will be 211. We're going to make it simple. There's an 800 number, but we're not going to give that out because most people that are going through something like that, half the time they can't even remember to grab a pen. Their mind can't even remember all them numbers. I know when I'm rattled, I get all twisted. Like you would think I was dyslexic. You would think that
I understand. True that. So 211.
I'm just saying 211. All you got to do is call 211 and tell them that you need help. Tell them what's wrong and tell them you need help, and they will help you. We didn't get to chapter 2, but in chapter 2, Mary Madison is introduced to the client, Emma, and they begin to get to know each other. And before we go, because we probably going to go into detail next week, and we may not even talk that much. I mean, because we've been talking so much about it, so you kind of already get the gist of it. But if there's key points in it, we'll bring it up. But one thing I wanted to say is that she made a deal with Emma. Mary did. And because Emma, she could tell, she could feel the resistance that Emma really didn't want to be there. And she told her, she said, if you stay here, because first of all, she built a rapport with her. And she shared with her that she herself had gone through what she'd been through, like she'd been there. And so that kind of got her attention, because usually, I know even in the 12-step meetings or substance abuse environment, they listen to you faster if you've experienced the same thing. If you ain't experienced the same thing, they be looking at you like, you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Right. And that's something that crosses over into other experiences in life. So for her, Emma, the client, she her ears kind of opened up, like she heard it when she said, oh, you went through what I went through? What you mean? By how? Because usually that's the next thing. Okay, so what you go through? You know what I mean? Like how you don't even know you don't even know the beginning of what I go through every day. You know what I mean? Like I can imagine what she was thinking in her mind. But whatever the case may be, Mary Madison had got her attention. She was building a rapport with her. And she told her, if you promise to stay until I finish telling you my story, then I'll let you go, something like that. Yeah, she was telling us, you and your children stay at this shelter. If you promise to stay, that's what it was. She said, if you promise to stay at the shelter, I will tell you the rest of my story. But you have to stay. And it's going to take some time. It's going to be more than one day. Yes. It ain't going to be one day. It ain't going to be one day. And so that was a really good way that got her. That was the connect. Because everybody ain't the same. Everybody ain't gonna fly like that, because some people, they done heard all kind of stories. They don't feel like hearing another story. All they want to do is go get a fix. For whatever reason, she was able to connect with her. Because she was kind of crying out, but she didn't know how to connect with that cry. She didn't know how to, verbalize it. She was fighting with her own demons and her thoughts, while sitting there. And what do they call it? I can't think of it when you when you want to go get high. What is it called? She was having withdrawals. So she was having withdrawals while she was sitting there the whole time. I'm not sure what her drug of choice was. We will discover that, I think, later on. But the bottom line is she was having withdrawals. So she was fighting with a lot of stuff. But anywho, So this was a good discussion about Divine. We hope to get through. We will get through chapter 2 and chapter 3. Yeah, we'll go through 3 and next week or the week 4, because I know one of the chapters is not as long, so we may even get into chapter 4. We'll see. But anywho, we hope you stay and hang in there and listen to the rest of the story, and maybe you might even be interested in looking up Karen Kingsbury and checking out some of her books. You can do Audible, or you can read them, yourself. So there's different ways that you can hear her. DJ Dika? Yes, we got to go. It's DJ Dika music time, and we'll see you when we see you. All righty then. Be blessed. Yeah, here we go. Next week. Have a wonderful week. Stay safe. Use prevention and intervention. Make peace, not war. Here we go. It was war about a week ago. They shot my man, I was with him about a week ago. In my city, round the city, we should stop that. Keep losing, trying to win with the get back. Don't you see where that gets us? Who's cooler? There's a body, there's a shooter. There's a man without a future. Now his homies out to get ya. And the cycle just continues if we only just remember that we stronger together. We was made here to give. We was made here to love. We was made here to live. Yeah, we stronger together. We was made here to give. We was made here to love.